It's recording now.
All right, this is our project here. How does workplace invasion of privacy affect employee trust and morale? I'm Nick Keegan.
I'm Juan Subieta.
I'm Luke Whitaker.
I'm Conor Robillard.
All right, and we're going to jump straight in. This is our research topic here. Our research looks at how companies monitor employees and how that impacts the trust and morale of the employees. Shown here, companies use a wide range of monitoring tools, including emails, location tracking, computer usage, and performance reviews. The goal of these systems is usually to improve productivity and accountability. However, as we noted previously, sometimes this monitoring goes a bit too far. This raises an important question. Where is the line between necessary oversight and invasion of privacy? So, our main research question focuses on how organizations can effectively manage employees without crossing that line and negatively impacting trust and morale.
Some of the organizational behavior concepts that we will see across this project are trust, organizational justice, and organizational culture. So, trust shapes how employees relate and agree with the management and organizations. And this is important because we want to answer a question in how privacy in the workplace affect trust. The other concept is organizational justice. There are two types of organizational justice. One is procedural justice, that is about how these monitoring policies are created and applied in an organization, and the interactional justice, which is about how clearly and respectfully employees are informed of these monitoring policies. We will mainly focus on the interactional justice, as our research method is mainly about employees. And another important concept that we think was really important was organizational culture, as based on the interviews that we conducted, we saw that the team environment and leadership really influence how monitoring is experienced among people, and also that culture can impact trust and morale in the workplace. So all of these three concepts together explain how and why privacy invasion impacts trust and morale.
All right, this is our literature review. From our research, we identified 4 key themes in the literature. The first of those being that monitoring tends to increase stress more consistently than it improves performance. While performance gains are modest and inconsistent, stress and strain are almost always present. Second, the perception matters more than the monitoring itself. The same system can be viewed differently depending on whether employees view it as fair or transparent. Basically, that says that how the perception of the employees, how they perceive that, depends on how it will be viewed. And third, trust is really the breaking point. Monitoring can lead to privacy concerns, which reduces trust and overall job satisfaction. Finally, monitoring can often affect employees indirectly by increasing their stress over time, which can negatively impact overall well-being and morale. Overall, the literature shows that monitoring itself isn't necessarily the issue, but what is how it's perceived. Pardon me, jump to the next slide here. This is our research method. So to explore this topic further, we conducted 4 semi-structured interviews with individuals from different industries. Each interview lasted about 30 minutes and focused on topics like monitoring practices, trust, fairness, and morale. We chose interviews instead of surveys because they allow for a more open-ended response that provided a deeper insight into the real experiences of the employees that we interviewed. This approach also helped capture emotions and perceptions, which are especially important when studying concepts like trust and fairness. Our goal was to better understand how employees perceive monitoring and how it impacts the trust in their organization, as well as whether they see it as fair or intrusive. Also, what they see as fair as intrusive.
So during our 4 interviews, here were some of our common findings. So first of all, monitoring is really common in most jobs now, since everyone we interviewed said their work is tracked in some type of way, whether that's GPS, computers, emails, cameras, or software. And it kind of just shows that it's becoming a normal part of the workforce. But the way it's explained is different depending on the job. Some places are super clear and strict with contracts and yearly training, while others are more vague, which can kind of confuse people. But because of that, people have mixed opinions, and some are fine with it if they're doing their job right. But others think it can be too much or feel kind of invasive, and especially when it starts to feel like micromanaging or it just goes beyond work. So some more common findings. So basically, trust really depends on fairness and transparency. When monitoring is clear and fair, employees are more likely to trust that company. But when it feels like it's too much or like it's being hidden, it can make people a little more cautious or even start to lose trust. It also affects how people act and communicate. Many said they're more careful about that, about what they say or do, and some even hold back from fully expressing concerns, especially in emails. But a common suggestion for most interviews was to improve things by being more transparent, keeping monitoring focused only on work, and cutting back on over monitoring or micromanaging.
So these are the findings that relate to the organizational behavior concepts that we mentioned before. The first one is that monitoring influences behavior and communication. So the interviewees reported that being more careful about what they say, write, or share, especially in writing communication. So these may hold back concerns or ideas. Um, they know that monitoring can improve compliance, but it may reduce open communication and impact how people can articulate or communicate in the workplace. The second one was that morale also depends on leadership and culture. In supportive environments with trusted managers, monitoring has less negative impact on morale. However, they also mentioned that micromanagement and excessive oversight increases stress and pressure in their own work. And they also think that people between their teams between each other can buffer those negative effects even when the company wide monitoring exists. I think we skip one is okay, that one, yeah, sorry. So another finding was that monitoring policies are not always clearly communicated. Some interviewees were aware that they're being monitored but unsure to what extent. So this lack of clarity it leads to cautious behavior when working and reducing the trust they have in the company itself. And the last one was that the perception of monitoring depends on the way of doing it. So half of the interviewees accept being monitored when they perceive it as fair, necessary, and equally applied. But the other half view monitoring as negative when it's excessive or intrusive. In some example of those excessive monitoring were were micromanagement situations, the GPS tracking, and the AI, the the data that AI uses in the workplace.
So some of the main solutions and recommendations that we came up with were to be transparent about monitoring, which is clearly explaining what is being tracked, why it's being tracked, and how the information is going to be used. And the second one we came up with is to reduce micromanaging, which would be to avoid the constant check-ins and any excessive supervision, since too much oversight could cause low trust and morale. And then the third one is to give employees a voice. Allowing employees to share their own concerns and feedback about privacy and monitoring practices can make them a lot more comfortable. And then the next one is to set clear privacy boundaries. This is to keep monitoring focused on job performance, safety, and security, and not just like looking at unnecessary personal details. And then the last one is to apply rules fairly and consistently. This is to enforce monitoring policies the same way for every single worker, and that builds more trust and it avoids any type of favoritism. And for our conclusion, it is workplace monitoring affects employees' trust and morale based on how it's carried out. When it's transparent, fair, and respectful, employees tend to be way more likely to accept it and not feel distrusted. Leadership and team culture also make a huge difference because managers who could communicate clearly and apply rules consistently just makes the whole entire morale better for everybody. And overall, monitoring itself isn't always just an issue. Problems just arise when it becomes excessive, unfair, or invasive. If you set clear expectations and consistent enforcement, it will strengthen perceptions of organizational justice and help build trust in the workplace. And these are our sources. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching.